for joining me here. My name is Michael Swank. I'm here inside of Art Gallery Studios in Mexico City, Mexico. We are in Colonial Juarez, a central location right next to El Centro and within walking distance of La Roma, Condesa, Polanco, and of course, El Centro. So we have all the major cultural institutions here, and we have many art fairs during Semana de Arte in February. So we hope that we're going to see you here again soon inside the gallery. But we've created this podcast to connect you to the artists that we work with so that you can understand better the themes, the context, materials, and processes, and what it means to be an artist and why we do the things that we do. So I hope that you find our podcast informative, entertaining, and that you want to subscribe to us. Keep in mind also that we have a companion publication, Bureau of Queer Art, which you can purchase through our website at artgallerystudios.com. Check it out there. I hope that you'll purchase that so that you can see all the images with the production as well as get extra content related to what we do here at Art Gallery Studios. If you're an artist and you're interested in participating, please go to Art Gallery Studio. Check us out. Click the apply button and we'll see you soon.
How are you doing? My gosh, you're everywhere. Like every time I feel like every time I see something, like you're in different locations and you're doing shoots everywhere. You've been very busy.
I have been very busy. I just got back from LA. I started a magazine, which like I didn't have any free time, so I don't know why I started that, but it's going really well. I've got to get the next issue out before I go to Italy in a couple weeks and France for like a month to work over there. So I'm trying to get the next issue out before I go. But you know, I have like I realized I can't do one issue at a time. I'm going to try like I have the next 6 issues done for the next 3 years. So I'm going to try to do 2 issues. Fine, come on. This is Mike. Mike, this is my friend Tyke. He's here helping me do produce it. But I have been really swamped with a lot of stuff. He's 6'5", so
how are you?
Yeah, pull that camera up. Good. Nice to meet you.
He runs
what is the magazine?
It's called the Studio Journal. It's a creative magazine, and we explore different topics. The first issue was water, and the second issue was beauty. I'm working on Hot right now, and the sound will be after that. So we just kind of explore different topics creatively. So I have articles, and it's really a photo essay magazine is what I wanted it as. So there's a lot of images. The printing, it's really there's no text on the cover. It has like a cloth spine on it, so it's a little more elevated than a magazine, but it's called a magazine. It has a band around it. I'll send you one if you want me to. Is it crazy to get books here? When I send my friends in like Europe, they have to pay. I mean, it costs me a lot to ship them, and they have to pay for the book before they get it. Because any books you get in Italy, they're taxed on the receiving end. Yeah, it's crazy.
Here, I mean, if you list it as a gift, there shouldn't be any taxes or anything associated here. But
send me your address that you want me to send it to, and I'll send you a couple copies.
Okay. Yeah, this interview is for the Bureau of Queer Art, which is the new publication attached to the gallery and the residency as well. So and it's also more of a visual format as opposed to Word. And then we're taking these interviews and some past interviews and things, and then putting them out as a podcast with like abbreviated content. And then you have to purchase the magazine to see the whole thing. So
you're putting QR codes on the pages?
Yeah.
And the next issue, I found out how small I can make them. And I was just in LA last week, and I saw this. I went to this eat, and they made a design out of the QR code, and it was beautiful. It didn't even look like a QR code. So I'm going to start doing that too. They made some really beautiful designs.
Yeah, I'm curious. Because I've seen like services where they can put your logo into a QR, but I haven't explored yet how to like custom make a QR, like so that it will work with the technology. So
Well, I've got the size down. I got the smallest that you can actually put on a print, and I've tested it out. So I'm gonna start using that, and I'm gonna start doing. I'm just gonna do my own design. I think I took a picture of that place in LA. If I can remember, if you remember me, I can send you that picture I took of that design of that one.
sure, well, that's super cool.
Yeah.
So
So
remind me. I'm gonna ask some questions as we lead into this that are going to be repetitive of things that I already know, but we're going to make the assumption that other people don't know to give some background information too. Okay, so there might be a little bit of repetition in terms of like things that we've talked about before too. So just so you're aware, and not, I'll edit this down to like 20 minutes of content, so it's not going to be a 2-hour conversation or something like that. Nobody has 2 hours to listen to anything anymore. So,
that's true.
so Robert, where are you located now?
North Alabama.
North
Very
Alabama.
Yeah, we're about 10 miles from Tennessee and 15 from Mississippi. So it's the foothills of the Smoky Mountains.
Ah, okay. So you're like 10 miles from illegal drag
Yeah,
at any time.
yeah. Crazy. Yeah.
I
We
think that's the strangest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm just like, it just seems like such an abstraction to me that anybody would put any money or time or effort towards something so ridiculous. But then, that's the world we live in.
it's crazy. We're embarrassed. I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah, no, I'm embarrassed for the United States. I'm like, it is embarrassing to just to have the culture being deconstructed to such simplistic forms of hate, but that's the history. So what are you gonna do? We just keep voting.
Exactly. That's keep voting. Yeah.
We have to keep voting. So Robert, you're in Northern Alabama. You're inside your studio right now, yes?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And how long have you been a photographer?
I guess I started shooting when I was like 18. I was really young.
So 5 or 6 years, I see.
For like 35, 38 years. Yeah.
Wow. And you shoot well, you have a professional commercial career as well as a fine art career.
Yes. That's
And who do you shoot for? I've seen that you shot for like the New York Times, I think, and
Wall Street Journal, Gardening Gun, tons of different magazines and clients, some fashion clients, even though I really don't think I do a lot of that, but I do have quite a few clients. I feel like most of my photographs are about storytelling. So I do a lot of food, fashion, lifestyle, but usually my images are storytelling.
okay. And are you still teaching? I know you were teaching locally last time I spoke to you.
I started teaching about 4 years ago, and I'm still doing that too. Yeah. So
Loving it, I imagine, if you're still doing it, because it can't pay that much. So
teaching I do love, but all the stuff you have to do outside of teaching is a lot of politics, which I don't like and I'm not really good at. And I keep expecting them to fire me. I tell them to fire me every day, but they don't. So,
too much paperwork to fire anyone. So they just let you continue onward. And I met you, it would have been about a little bit over 2 years ago. You had applied to the gallery as part of our Fotografia 2021, I think it was, right?
I think so. Yeah, right before
And
COVID.
that gorgeous image, which I cannot remember the title of.
The Emperor's New Clothes.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, which is hanging upstairs. Upstairs. We've shown that piece. Oh my gosh, how many times have we shown that piece? I feel like we've shown it like 1,000 times or something, but
At least 3 or 4. Well, you know what's funny about that piece is that that year that I created that, I said, you know what? Because I live in Alabama and I have to curate and edit myself and my images and stuff. And so that year I said, okay, I'm going to create a body of work this year that I'm not going to show anybody. It's just going to be for myself. And that's one of the pieces I created for myself. And then that came up and I'm like, you know what? Mexico City, that's a continent away. No one's ever going to see this stuff. So I'll go ahead and submit it. I never thought I would get it or anybody would see it. And that's why I was really shocked when y'all accepted it, and I was really honored. And
Well, I'll pull that sound clip out and put it with all of our online applications as a motivator for people.
be surprised what happens. Yeah, that's true.
Well, no, I mean, we obviously in 2021, the first time we showed it, attendance was quite light because we were in the middle of the quarantine still. And then I think we showed it, I'm fairly certain we showed it during like one of our queer summer shows. And then I know we showed it last spring at the Clavo Movimiento, where we featured it as the entering piece and then showed your video as well. You did a fantastic video showing sort of the making of in an abbreviated format. And we showed that video and people were just like, wait, it's not a painting, it's a photograph. Like, because everybody says that when they look at your work. We showed your underwater series as well, you know, and everybody looks at it and they're like, wait, it's not a painting? And then like, I'll explain to them the process of you creating, the seaweed and doing it in the, shallow pool and all, and people are just like, what? Who is this person?
Well, that really helped me a lot, and I really need to get back to doing that. I feel like when I come back from Europe, I'm going to Europe, when I come back, I want to start making stuff again that's just for myself. And working with you really did. Because that stuff that I created for myself was myself, and you gave it another voice, which really made it. It was almost came back and talked to me in a different way. And I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate the way that I look at that work now differently than I did.
Well, it was a different time as well because we were in quarantines and the pandemic and everything, and so it sort of slowed everything down long enough for us to reflect on our practice and the things that we were doing in a very different way. Did the quarantine teach you anything new?
Yes, but as soon as I got out of quarantine, some of those practices that I had in quarantine, I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep the good part, because there were some really great things for me. And it seems like now that I've gotten out of quarantine, I'm reading this book, 4,000 Weeks, and it's about time. I don't know if you read it or not, but and it makes me, I need to get back to that. The world goes so fast and life goes so fast and there's so much to get done, and I'm back in the rat race, the same rat race I felt like I was before quarantine. And during quarantine I said I'm going to keep some of this slowing down and taking more time with things, and I just lost it again. It's a struggle.
I think it's a discipline. It just takes. It's like the intention has to be there along with like some sort of action that sort of triggers the discipline to get back into the studio, especially if you take any time away from the studio. When you have a professional career as well, like a commercial professional career, and you're trying to balance those two things out, it's like, well, this over here is paying more of the bills. So,
Yeah.
Where does the inspiration come from for the work that you do?
I think it comes from, I get inspired everywhere. I from traveling, meeting people, seeing other people's artwork. I feel like I have a notebook of images that I'll probably never ever get to. It's so long. I have a dead bird, and it's beautiful. But it was left in the road, and the way its claws were and its neck was, it's drying out and back. Well, it's actually raining right now, so it's getting wet again. Um, but I mean, I find stuff everywhere, and I'm like, I've been wanting to do a picture with that. I want to take the wings off. I'm gonna do a picture of it, and then a picture of myself in that in environment with it. But I think they're everywhere. I feel like there's too many ideas and ways to express. Like you were just talking about the drag queens in Nashville. I have a whole series of images I'd love to do with that. I mean, I feel like inspiration is so much. It's more culling down, okay, what is realistic and what can I fit in my life comfortably, and what can I create and say something for myself, and more cutting those things down. Yeah. Then
As soon as you decide on a image that you want to construct, what is the process? Obviously, I mean, just for a little bit of background, like you hand paint and create all the costumes and all the elements in each of your compositions. So what is the process like, and how much time does that take for you to get through that?
well, if I had the time, I could probably do an image every 2 months. And I have somebody now that's a mural artist, and he came and helped me with a backdrop, because the backdrops can take 2 or 3 weeks to paint themselves. The clothing construction, it's a lot of hot glue gun. I do sew some stuff, but it's not, and I mismatch. And like I just did a series of my little girl and I, and she's 26 now. But I took a cape that I made, that I photographed her in when she was 2 years old. It had like rhinestones on it. I still had it, so I pulled it out, redid it, and so I have a picture of her and me in the cape that she had when she was 2 years old, but now she's 25 years old, and she's like a trapeze artist. So yeah, but I want to start collaborating with other people, so I don't have to do everything myself. And so this guy that does murals, I've showed him some ideas, and when I get back, we're going to go through a list, and he has some ideas he wants to do as well. So I'd like to start collaborating with the pieces, so it's not just me. I love doing everything myself, but I love it when I work with, even when I'm my professional job, if you have, we call it the A team, the stylist, the hair, makeup, everyone that is all, and we all think exactly like, it just adds to the image. Instead of myself adding to it, having other people add to it would just make it. And like working with Una, we did that collaboration with the pig and stuff like that too. I really like doing collabs. Working with her was a little different than some of the others, but yeah.
Well, Una was in the residency, and that's how you had met her, Una Nelson, which is actually not the collaboration, but this is her other collaboration on our walls still from a previous exhibition.
It was right before me, but I met her because she talked. I don't think she was in my group. She was the one. Yeah, she was the one before me. So I saw her stuff, and then she came on, and she came down in Mexico. So I saw her bits and pieces, and then we hooked up on I think a Kiki. I think it was a Kiki that she was on. And she emailed me and said, I could help you with some of your work. And I said, oh yeah, cool. So yeah.
Well, that's the way things happen, right? I mean, like minds. I mean, you have similar processes, even though aesthetically there's some differences and things. But that collaboration you did with Una Nelson those were some pretty intense images. There was like there was the hotel room with the pig, but there was like also this like butcher scene as well. Like that you were hanging naked in that one, butchered, yes,
like a piece of, and then she was in the Chase Lounge. She made those prosthetics. Dude, she's brilliant. So I loved collaborating with her, and she's very she pushed. I think we did a really good collaboration because our strengths are not the same, and we played up each other's strengths. And that was a good collaboration for sure.
Well, and like even going back to the Emperor's clothing piece that you did, like it's just interesting because the video you created of how you did it is so informative, and we'll post that online again as well. But it's so informative because you could see like it's like just the curtains, the clothing, the amount of detail within the clothing, and like do you tend to do you use Photoshop at all for more than just adjustments, or do you add details to it too with Photoshop, or is it all in the shot itself?
No, it's all in the shot. I like making things. I don't really like Photoshop, so all I did is color correct in Photoshop. I did color correct because it was a little bit warm, but that's all I did. But I'm not opposed to that. There is an image that I want to do, and I've already shot the base of it, and I would love to add in very Baroque flowers and fruit, and I want it to be very over the top, kind of Baroque, and it would just be easier to do that in post. So I do have that on my list of images I want to do that, and hopefully I'll get that done when I get back in late summer.
I would love to. I wish I could like. When are you leaving town? Because I'll just sneak into your studio and take that book and just spend days like.
Michael, you're welcome anytime, and we have a loft studio here, so you're more than welcome to come and stay anytime.
Thank you. Who are the artists that inspire you? Like when you're, obviously there's a sense of classical style to all the images, even the more contemporary ones that you do. So I'm just curious who your inspirations are. Who do you turn to when you're lacking inspiration, or you need that extra, push to?
Well, I think I gravitate more towards painters than I do photographers, but I love, Herb Ritz, Peter Limburg. There's a host of photographers that I really do love, but a lot of the painters, a lot of the French painters, Italian painters, some of the Dutch painters as well. But even sculptors, I feel like I say, inspiration is so everywhere, and I'm so inspired by not everything, but a lot of things. I'm disgusted by a lot of things, but I'm inspired by a lot of things too. So just cutting those down to something that I can actually get to and do. But from clothes to light, I'm constantly looking at light everywhere and the way the light will change a space. So and also because I think that I do gravitate towards grandiose things, and I don't have the money or the lifestyle for grandiose things in my life, but I tend to gravitate towards those type of things. So I'm always trying to come up with ways of having those elements, but they're not really those elements.
Right. Well, that's the illusion of that photography allows, or film, or any medium like that, is that it allows you to create things, and because they're seen through a lens, it bends reality enough that you can take something that might be rather inexpensive and make it look lush.
Yeah.
Which is, like one of those things when, as a curator, when you're looking at things, you're like, what is real and what is not real here? Like, what's actually going to arrive at my door? Like when I open that package, is it going to look anything like this?
Right. Yeah.
Do you have any sort of feelings or perspective on the trend in artificial intelligence and photography?
I've been using it a lot. Actually, it's funny that you say that. Not so much artificial intelligence, but you do use that a lot, and it's changed so much in the past months that I've been using it for like 3-4 months. But there's so many artists out there now that are they're called photographers or digital. Some people use different terms, but it's the images they create are not real. They're using pieces of people and pieces of things, and they're creating. So it's not AI, but it's artificial, but it's a real person creating these. I don't know if you've looked at the visual dome. You should look at it. It's an artist that created this world, and there's people and stories, and it's just incredible. But it's all fake. But it has a retro futuristic. I think you'd really like it. It's just really, I'm really fascinated, and there's tons of artists like that. that I really am fascinated, because it's not real, but they're making these real. I mean, we know photography is not real, but they're creating whole worlds, not just like one or two images. They're creating whole worlds that people and environments that people they consistently they can pull from and use, and it's really fascinating to me. Um, so AI is kind of scary. I think that part of AI is scary is that they can monitor and they can get every bit of information that they can gather from me, and then reiterate back to me to actually not control me like they're meaning to control me, but control me because they're giving me what I want when I want it. And I will self-destruct myself with that kind of information, you know? So,
Well, it's that space in between the potential and there's a space of intention.
yes,
That's the fearful space. It's like, what is the intention of the AI, or the people behind the AI and how they use those things? I know there are I've heard stories of a lot of artists who are upset because AI has sort of pilfered some of their imagery and fed it into the stream, so it becomes part of, you know, what everybody can do, or so there's the copyright issues. And we had an artist last year who submitted some beautiful photography, and then I went to talk to the artist and discovered that it was artificial intelligence, so they weren't labeling the work as that. And then I had gone to the Maya Contemporary here in Mexico City, and there was a Mexican artist who has like a 30-year career in oil painting and like has a very robust portfolio. And the show was artificial intelligence, and the images were quite dramatic and were gorgeous images. So I talked to the curator about it, and then I sent the show to the artist that I was speaking of, and she responded to me by basically duplicating the images almost in artificial intelligence. And I was just like, okay, now I don't even know if I could. I don't know if I could take your portfolio seriously, because now I really don't know like where the inspiration for your work came from, and like how, like where's the artist in the artificial part of it, like how does. And I think that's the same thing that, the same conversation 150 years, 200 years ago with photography, that 150 years ago, like people were having too. Well, photography isn't real art because it's just documentation, or, so I don't think I don't feel like artificial intelligence as an art form is invalid. I just think there's the problem with the ethics and how that gets managed as well.
Well, I teach, and a lot of my students use AI to pull references, and the prompts that you give them actually control what the outcome is going to be, which is not a big deal. But what they're doing, and it's frustrating to me, is that they're giving these prompts to the AI, and then they're just recreating what the AI created. You know what I mean? So they're copying
Right.
AI, calling it their own. And I'm like, well, that's not really. I mean, if you're using that they say they're using it for inspiration, but they're really just copying what the AI. And I do understand that you are controlling the prompts of what the outcome is going to be, but yeah, it is kind of a.
Well, that's like saying like I put in a prompt into Google search, and then I generate the content for a paper. It's like there's a difference between like putting something in quotes and citing a source, as opposed to taking something and putting it on the page without quotes. And so right. I think it kind of depends. I think there's a relationship there that's really interesting. I haven't had a chance to explore the AI yet, but I'm curious about if your students like took their image, could they put it back into the AI and then like have the AI respond to the image? Yep. So like to me, the conversation is more interesting than the actual pieces that are being created. It's like, okay, if I go back and forth with this and create a conversation, am I collaborating with the AI, or is the AI actually dictating what it is that I'm going to produce? So,
well, they can put in prompts and styles, and they can put in their own work and use those as prompts or styles, because they have, you know, prompts and styles, and you can say make something like, or even when I write something, I can say write this like it's a male from Alabama in a rural town, and you know, write the prompt for. I mean, so you can be very specific. I don't think a lot of them are that specific, but some of them are. I do have some students that have been using it for a while, and there's different AIs that they're using as well. Not everyone does the same kind of stuff, but a lot of them have styles. So they have styles you can go through, pick like Monet, Rembrandt. You just go and click, 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 and then it produces the artwork or whatever. Yeah, it's definitely the way. I mean, they're all using it. I mean, all the freshmen, well, I'm not gonna say all of them, but I would say the majority of the freshmen use it for all. When they before they make any artwork, they go and get inspiration and prompts. What's scary is though that when I see the inspiration coming in, I can say, oh yeah, that was taken from the Scream of whatever, or this inspiration, but they don't know. They just thinking it's from whatever, you know. And so I'm like, well, you kind of need to know where AI is taking that, but they, you know.
Right. It's the folly of youth. You know, when you're young, everything is new. So you're not necessarily as aware of the historical context of things. Right. So you take it and then you present it as your own, and then somebody is like, well, no, you know, actually Wonder Bread is a label that's on the grocery store shelf. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And this piece of work is about as satisfying as that Wonder Bread is. Not at all.
Very true.
Yeah. I'm curious, if could you do me a favor? Do you have your sketchbook near you?
No, I do not.
Oh, okay. I was like, I just wanted you to show like a page from your sketchbook, and then like talk about like how you how you would process that idea, and like what your next steps might be.
I have more than one, but I don't. My main one is not here.
I should have pre-warned you.
Yeah, no. But they're chicken scratch. I mean, I don't spend a lot of time. It's really just getting down the ideas. So it's chicken scratch and usually notes is what I do. I don't really finish them. And sometimes I'll do lists of stuff. Like if it's an image that I want to do, I'll do a sketch and then some notes and then like a list of like ideas or props or color palettes or things like that.
I'd love you to like take that little stream of notes and put it into the AI and see. Be like, oh, I guess I'm not doing it now.
That's a good idea. I've never thought about that. Like saying it's okay, give me some more ideas. I have had it asked for like, you know, because I have a magazine that I started, and I'll come up with titles for articles, and I'll say, give me a list of 10 different titles for an article on this. And it does a great job with that. But I've never thought about doing that for my images. I say, okay, give me a list of things that would enhance this image. I bet it comes up with some good stuff. Some of the stuff is like, yeah, but some of the stuff is really actually clever that it comes up with.
Well, you know, and we'll see how that all plays out. But it would be really interesting to have you take your prompt from your sketchbook and have AI generated something, and then have you respond to it in your studio, not as a copy of the AI, but as an interpretation of the AI. I think that would be a really, so that way there's it's almost like creating like a scale, a grading scale or something, where you could say these are the intrinsic values of the handwork, and these are the intrinsic values of, you know, working in the digital realm too, and you can see them side by side. Which is not something I've seen so far in the art world. I haven't seen people like trying to make a statement about like the humanity of AI next to the studio work that's done.
Yeah, but I have seen some. Yeah, I'll have to think on that. I have seen some images that the AI has done that I would use that as inspiration for my own. And I guess that's kind of what you're saying. I'll have to think on that and look into that. Again, it's time, finding time and culling down the ones that I have actually do.
Time is like the essential thing. It's so difficult, and things just seem to move so quickly. And just in terms of like balancing like the professional career next to the professional career of creating art and things too. Have you been able to do any? I think the last time I heard about you doing a show was maybe last fall. You did a show in the local museum.
Yes. Yep. I do.
How
And that
how was that? How was that show received?
it was they said that, I mean, it wasn't anything. I mean, it's a very small town, so there was some nudes and stuff, and they had a couple different comments. One was one person came in and goes, "Does Rob know that his pictures are in here?" And I thought that like, yes, he knows, because there was some nudes in there. Did he know they had nude pictures in here of me?
There was
But
a revenge porn show in a local museum of you or something.
so, but they said that they said it was really good because they didn't have anything that was bad, but they said it did challenge because they've never had anything like that. And then we had, I mean, and you and I had some conversations with that about it too, because they've never had a show like that. Everything has been more, pastoral paintings and stuff that was very safe. I don't think they've ever had shown any nudes or anything like that. And not that my nudes, I very selected them they were very tame. But there was ones of me tied up and some other ones that could be misconstrued. But everything's positive. I was this older man came to me, he's about 70, and the one that I was all tied up, he's like, I really related to that. And I would never expected this from him at all. But he said, I don't know you, but I really, and I look at that and I feel like I'm tied up all the time. And that image really spoke to me. So I've had different people come up that I wouldn't expect, and give positive. So I think it was all positive. Some people were bewildered of why I would take pictures like that. But
Well, why are a majority of the work that I've seen of yours in the fine art realm is you as the subject matter? So is that just a matter of convenience, or is this an exploration of identity for you?
well, that show really was. I mean, that was about, I mean, I do use myself a lot. Part of it's convenience, part of it's I work so hard. And I do put some people in there, but usually someone I know really well. I very rarely put a stranger in my image that I don't know, because I do work so hard on them and I feel like it's so much of me in them. That I have to have a relationship with the people that I do put in the images or bring. So it's usually family and friends are in all my images, from parents to siblings to my kids. And if it's not someone that's related to me, it's either a really good friend of mine or
Mhm.
someone that really needs to fit the bill. I did do one of Mona, and she was someone I did not know, but she looked very similar to Mona Lisa. I just wanted to shoot her like that. But part of it is, I feel like every artist, whether you're a painter, sculptor, all of our work as artists are self-portraits, all a reflection of our ideas and who we are. So I know they are technically self-portraits, but they're not really of me. I'm always portraying, even the last show, they were all of me, but I was playing a part. And kind of like Cindy Sherman, but she's really playing a part. I let more of myself be seen. So it usually is not a whole, like her work is a whole uh, character that she's portraying. A lot of my photographs were more about one little aspect uh, of somebody or an aspect that I'm portraying. So I don't use a lot of prosthetics, and I mean sometimes I will, but I don't use a lot of prosthetics and makeup. And usually my face, because I really can't change my face that much without a lot of that kind of stuff, and I'm not into that kind of stuff. So usually I try to either turn it, or my face is not the prominent part of the image.
Unless it's covered in candy.
Yes, that's
Because you did that portrait series where your face was like caked with like candy. Everybody's like, who's the candy man?
yeah.
Do you identify as a queer artist?
You know, when you talked about that before, I really thought about the different terms that everyone was using and labeling themselves as. And I guess I don't even label myself as a photographer.
Hmm.
So yes, I do like the word queer, and I think that because I think queer is not, it's outside of sexual orientation. To me, it is, and I think it fits a lot of people, and it definitely fits me, and I think it fits a lot of people that are in my world as well. So I do like that word. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I agree with you. It's outside of, it's the sort of bell hooks quote, the uh, queer is not about who you sleep with. It's more about an attitude and, you know, like a sort of perspective on the world we live in that's outside of the mainstream. So, and that's the theme of the way I curate our shows and things too, is this idea of, you know, queer identity is a spectrum. um,
Yeah.
I always worry that, like, especially with uh, younger generations and things too, that the whole lettering, the LGBTQ IA plus and all these things, it's just like, I feel like you could look at that alphabet of soup of things and still not see yourself in it. Whereas queer is this like open-ended ideal that allows accessibility.
Yeah.
You know, maybe too much accessibility. I don't know. I'm not a gatekeeper. You know, I'm not really interested in preventing people from creating art, because I feel like, and I'm sure as a teacher you see this too. It's like the act of creation. If a person is involved in creating something, they're not going to pick up a gun, you know, and go out and shoot people. They're going to, you know, like that act of creating shows you something within yourself, you know, that I think is can be life changing,
Yeah.
particularly when you're younger. I mean, you've been making art, as you said, for the last 30 some years. Um, I mean, what is the relationship of creating the art to the way that you live your art? How does that help you live in the world?
Well, I think that everything is, I think the way I eat, you know, the way you dress, the way you decorate your house, or I feel like it's all an expression of art. You know, the light. I mean, photography is all about light. So even the way I light a room, or you design the room to let the light come in the room with curtains or without curtains or all that. To me, it's all in a aesthetic of a world that I want to live in. So
Mhm.
the that I create are just an extension of that, but it definitely has to do with the way I eat. And I mean, I used to spend a lot more time and go to thrift stores and make a lot of my stuff. I probably spend less time doing that now, but because just my attention has to go to other areas. But I think every aspect of at least my life, I feel like art is and art, but I think food and music are two things that feed my soul, and so I really gravitate towards music and food a lot because it really affects me, and the things I see as well. I'm a very visual person, but I think music and food above that really affect my life and my mood for sure.
What is your favorite foods?
I love everything. I grew up. My parents they raised me as a without eating meat or cheese or eggs or anything like that. So I grew up eating like a variety of everything, and so I do like almost everything except meat. But I do eat cheeses and stuff like that now. So I love trying everything. I like spicy. I like mild. I like, hot stuff, fresh stuff, stuff that's bland. I just bought some. They're garlic tips before the flowers bloom. I've never seen them before. They're called, I don't know what they're called. You probably know what they're called.
No, I don't.
But they had some at the farmer's market I was at this morning. So she let me try one. I'm like, oh, these are great. So she picked me a whole handful of them.
You
But I
just cut them up and use them like a leek or something, or?
Yes, they're the garlic. They're like the long green stems, and if
Oh,
And you can see the bud is about to bloom, but the flower hasn't bloomed yet. And you eat it from the stalk all the way up to the bloom. And they taste like a cross between an asparagus and garlic. They're really good. I eat them fresh, but she said you can saute them or cook them or steam them. And some people fry them when the buds first bloom. They'll fry them like squash blossoms, I guess, too. But we're in the South. We fry everything. So
so you grew up vegan, but everything was fried?
no, nothing was fried. When my mom never fried anything. If the closest thing you get to something fried is she would coat it in olive oil and bake it on a low temperature, and that's what we called fried. So if we ate fried stuff, it was just coated in oil and baked at a low temperature.
I mean, that alone in the South it qualifies you for the queer spectrum right there. Like I lived in Texas for a while, and that was, I mean, they deep fry it, cover everything in every sort of cheese, and like wow, and the sweet tea and like all that stuff. You're like, oh, geez, call my cardiologist.
Exactly. Have a lot of
and do you listen to music in your studio then when you're working?
Yeah, well, it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing something that takes all my concentration, I don't, or I'll listen to classical music without words. But I do love music, and it changes all the time. I guess a lot of people comment when they come into the studio because it'll be from classical to 20s music to rockabilly, 80s, all kinds of stuff. So I don't listen to really much one thing, but yeah, music.
I have very eclectic music taste, but with my brain thing, I unfortunately, like right now, I can't really read, and I can't follow music very easily. So the only thing that I can listen to is like a softer classical music or binaural sounds. Like I have all these in my Spotify right now. You know how it always like makes new playlists for you and stuff. Like right now, it's all like Brian Eno and like whale sounds, or like just all these like random, like very ambient, like sort of tones and things. That's the only thing I could do, but it does help me focus. I do like it, and it competes with all the outside noise that we're hearing back here with the city and stuff too.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, I do like sounds too. I just a friend of mine. We were on a art council, and she was talking about the way that we all connect, and they put heart monitors on everyone that went to the symphony, and when the symphony started playing, all the heartbeats in the whole auditorium, they all synced up.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was crazy. And then during intermission, when everyone left to go to get drinks and stuff, their heartbeats did go back off of rhythm with everyone. But if you were with a group of friends, and even if you weren't together, those heartbeats still stayed in sync. But then when everybody came back from intermission, everyone synced up again. And I thought that was a really beautiful thing about we are connected. We're connected in so many ways that we don't even know that we're connected. And I thought that's crazy. My heartbeat can connect with everyone else around me with the sound. And I'm not sure if it was the sound or with everyone being in the same room, but I thought that was really powerful. It made me stop and think.
Well, I don't remember the name of I think it was a Japanese photographer in the 90s who did, or in the early 2000s, who photographed water that had classical music playing into the water, and showed how affected the way the water like moved and everything. Like it had to, and if we're 75% water, then of course, right? Like everything would be in sync, even with the moon and everything too. It's funny how we've developed this culture around separating ourselves from reality, from the core of like who we are, like what we're attached to and things. But I think that's the magic of art as well, and particularly like within your own images and things too. There's so much humanity in it. I'm thinking about the underwater series that you did, which was a series of stills that were you sort of sinking into the bottom of the water. What was the inspiration for that? Where did that come from?
Well, that was a dream that I had. It wasn't a very pleasant dream, but I've had it for years and years. And I actually, since I've created those images, I don't really have that. I haven't had that dream, which is interesting. But it was a dream that I had all the time, that I was alone in the middle of the ocean. I think it was the ocean. It was just a huge body of water. I couldn't tell if it was the ocean, but I couldn't see land anywhere. And the water was that deep, dark blue black. And I could see it was deep, and I was on the very top. And I didn't have anything to hold on to, and I had to like float. And I was trying to float on my back, and I don't float very well at all. So I have to breathe and always keep my lungs full of air. And I just remember having that dream, like it wasn't a panicking, but it was like, how long can I do this for? How long can I stay afloat? And I knew I couldn't swim to land. I'm a pretty good swimmer. I do triathlons. So normally I would flip over and go, okay, I'm going to swim to land wherever that land is. But in this dream, I knew it was so far, there was no hope for me to ever swim anywhere, just to wait for someone to either come in a boat or wait for something to happen. And so it's me going underwater, coming back up, and just being relaxed, but trying to not use any effort, because I didn't know how long I was going to be there, and using my breath as much as I could to sustain above the water. So those images kind of came from that continual dream that I would have quite often for years and years. Yeah.
It's interesting to hear that too, because the image itself feels so meditative. I don't get a sense of fear, or like there's no drama, like the water isn't frantically moving. You're just slowly floating and coming down into the water. And, so it's kind of it's interesting to hear that story behind it. I'll make sure to post an image of that too, so that people can see it. But it's a beautiful composition. You made all that seaweed from plastic, yeah?
Yeah, that I did that a long time ago. I did something when my kids were small. I did an underwater series of these sea creatures. So I had it in the back, and the rats hadn't chewed it all up, and so I found some that was left and kind of pulled it out and sprayed it up because it faded. Yeah, and I borrowed a friend of mine's pool, and I did it at black plastic, and a flower pot, I think, fell in, so I had a bunch of dirt in there with me actually too, because I had to keep the plastic on. I tried to do a little film of that, but it was hard because I was doing that all by myself. My friend came out with a cocktail and watched me for about 30 minutes. She thought it'd be entertaining to see me run around nude, jumping in and out of the pool. I'm like, well, wasn't that entertaining? So she came out for about 20 minutes and then she left. So I did it all by myself. It's kind of funny.
She's like, I need another drink. This isn't working for me.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. I feel like it's been. I honestly don't even remember the last time we talked. I mean, It's
been a while. It's been a while, and I think about you often, and I love what you've done. You've really kind of put some, not fire into my butt, but some inspiration when I really didn't need it. And I've met so many. Allie Warren. I don't know if you know this or not. I went to Burning Man last year, and
you were there with her, yes.
I read up like, oh my gosh, Allie, and we never met before. And her sister saw me and recognized me from my work first, because she has a twin. And so she's like, you're Robert Rausch. I'm like, how? What do you know? And we had a really good time. I've connected with her and several other people. So it's, very, very inspirational. You worked with some wonderful people, very talented people. Her work is amazing.
I only work with talented, wonderful people.
You
So
really?
I say, like, I've worked in education, and I was an art director for years, and you know what it's like. You work with difficult people and horrible people all the time, and you have to, because it's your job. And like, this is a project. So I'm like, no, I only work with people I like and that are easy to work with and wonderful artists. Like, that's the whole theme of everything to me now, especially more now.
Yeah, but I feel honored that I have got to work with you, because you have worked with some great people. So it's been an honor and a privilege. And you're so hard. You've given everyone really honest, and you're attention, and you've really given so much. So I hope that comes back to you, because I know that you're a creative and artist as well.